Good evening, dear viewers. This is George from Ireland, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the degree class inflation problem in the United Kingdom. So let me explain the system very briefly for those of you who are unfamiliar with it. In the United Kingdom, bachelor's degrees award various classes: first, second, third, but there's a pass degree. So very few people get a pass degree. A pass degree is that close to failing. Really, you should have failed, I'll give you a degree, and please go away and never come back, and you can't do a master's degree or any higher qualification. So the top is a first class degree, which is excellent. Few people get that. Second class is a very broad category, so we say 2-1 for the better second class degrees and 2-2 if you're lower down the second class degrees. So loads of people get 2-1s, few people get 2-2s, below that are thirds, which are mediocre. Now, a first, a second, or a third, they're all honours degrees, so people could put BA Hons behind their name. It's just assumed that people got honours degrees. That's nothing special. Virtually everyone with a bachelor's degree has an honours degree. To not have an honours degree, to only have a pass degree, is dreadful, and that's very unusual. Anyway, time was only about 10% of people were awarded first-class degrees. When I graduated in 2002, that would have been the case. Now in the United Kingdom, about 25% of people are awarded first-class degrees. Now, this is debasing the currency of a degree classification system that was invented at Oxford University over 200 years ago. But let's look at the bright side. There are some positive reasons why such high grades are being achieved by so many undergraduates, and more people than ever are graduating from university in the United Kingdom. This is not simply explained by the rise in population, or indeed that more people are coming from abroad, but about 40% of young people attend tertiary education. The Labour government wanted it to be 50%, but that target's been dropped. It's partly because people are trying harder. A few decades ago, people had any degree, even a third-class degree. They're more or less guaranteed a well-paid job. But those days are over because there are just armies of people graduating, and a degree is no longer such a distinction. So people have to make a great effort, and because they endeavour, that's partly why they tend to achieve higher grades. Other reasons are more effectual teaching. Lecturers and professors saw themselves as primarily researchers, the undergraduates as a distraction. Well, since '98, people had to pay fees. It used to be £1,000 a year, now it's up to £12,000 a year at the best universities for a bachelor's degree. That's for people from within the European Union. Those from outside the EU have to pay a lot more, double. Perhaps the universities are teaching more effective than ever before, and undergraduates are to be perceived as clients, as stakeholders, and so forth. Now, that's laudable up to a point. There were dons, that's academics, who just didn't care about undergraduates. Previously were very gruff and probably no good at teaching. But I don't really think it's for the undergraduates to be judging the academics. People should largely teach themselves at university. That's what third level education ought to be about. It is not school. You're responsible for your own education. You can read it for yourself, someone else can teach it to you, probably do a combination of the two. So people paying fees, they're demanding value for money, and they're getting it. But the trouble is there's a bit of a complaints culture. And one of my friends, who's a lecturer at a certain university, I shan't say which, he says if he fails an undergraduate, he or she will complain, they weren't taught properly. It can't possibly be that they weren't academically up to the mark or didn't try hard enough. It has to be the lecturer's fault. These adults will not accept that it's theirs. And so on. So universities are very reluctant to fail people. So people, because they pay fees, think they own the lecturers and expect to pass, and not just that, be awarded a high grade. So this snowflake generation is frightening universities into awarding them grades they shouldn't. Parents are increasingly involved because sometimes they're paying the fees. So it infantilizes undergraduates. But I'm worried the way that degrees are being devalued by awarding unduly high grades. There are some people who deserved firsts, of course, as there always were. People aren't smarter, they're not stupider, they're just as clever as ever. They're perhaps trying harder. Some increase in the number of people awarded first wouldn't surprise me. But when it's increased year on year for decades, something is going wrong. It can't be explicable solely due to an increased work ethic or to better teaching. So I think it's because university education is too commercialized, something most people in the United States would also recognize. There's a perverse incentive to award people degrees who shouldn't be awarded them because the university sees itself as a business. Stack them high, sell them cheap. We've got to make it alluring for people to study here because they're being guaranteed to pass and indeed get a high grade. So sometimes the educational imperatives collide with the commercial imperatives, and you can guess which one wins. The financial ones every single time. I've taught at independent schools and I've seen the same deal there. The rank dishonesty, and I just couldn't take it. It was too much for me, awarding people grades that they totally didn't deserve. Anyway, universities, they award their own grades. There is some quality assurance, but they're largely a law unto themselves. They can decide their course content, they can strip out the more difficult stuff as well. They can reduce the amount that people have to learn, the length of the exams, the nature of the questions, and so forth. So I tend to be in favour of minimal regulation, but this may be a case where more may need to be introduced. Otherwise, charters should be revoked. So I do have a solution. We could say that only 10% of people can be awarded firsts or something like that, and only 50% of people can be awarded 2-1s and so forth, and a certain percentage awarded 2-2s, and a certain percentage thirds, or even pass degrees. I don't think we should mandate that you have to fail some people. That's up to universities themselves. But a university with some backbone will be willing to fail people occasionally if they really don't come up to the mark. That way, some integrity can be restored to the system, and the degrees will have more value for the future. Because otherwise, we face a preposterous scenario where ludicrous numbers of people are awarded the top grade, and it just loses all meaning. So we have to bring back some common sense and bring back a gold standard for first-class degrees.